At this point, we have what I'll call sort of the skeleton or the basic breakdown of the entire portrait. And now I want to start refining things and slowly getting away and erasing those structural lines. So all of these grid lines that we have drawn out. So I'm going to start by just erasing some of these lines around my eyes. And then I'm going to go back into my eyes to check myself once again to see if my shapes are correct. And I can already just see by a quick glance that some things are not as accurate as they can be. So I'm going to zoom into the eye. I'm going to zoom into my drawing. And now I'm going to try to get in all the anatomy, the inner corners, the tear duct, try to refine those shapes as much as possible. And today I'm going to be starting with my eyes, but then I'm going to slowly be working my way down. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because if the eyes aren't in the right place, then that's also going to mess up the nose and it's going to mess up the mouth. But if I know my eyes are correct and then I work my way down to the nose, then I know the nose is going to be correct in relation to the eyes. Really looking at that white of the eye to see what it is doing. Remember that if you're having trouble with a particular feature, go ahead and flip your paper upside down and your image upside down, and that'll help quite a bit. And this is also a good time while you're up here to take a look at the shape of the eyebrow, so making sure that that is correct. All right, and then I'm going to move on to the other eye and do the same thing. So then once you do that, then you're going to move on to the nose. Now, I never like to assume that what I did was correct. I always want to measure again. So I'm going to take the measurement of my eye, so this, and I'm going to see how many times this fits in the height between, oops, that's not going to work. Okay, I'm going to measure it with my pencil, or you're not going to see, so I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to see how many times I can bring that down. So I'm measuring, bringing it down. So I can see that there's one eye, and then it kind of hits the top of my nostril. So I'm going to measure that. So then I'll know that the top of my nostril is going to be about there. Okay. And I'm going to re-look at the shape of my nose, asking myself, okay, what does this shape look like? It's kind of an oval. And now I'm going to get rid of those structural lines and draw sort of more realistically the shape of my nose. So what was a straight line here sort of ends up turning into like a curve. Okay. And even though it's not that pronounced, I'm just going to do it in lightly. And I'm also going to notice that there's a little curve up here. Erase this line and more accurately capture that angle. Still noticing that the tip of my nose comes just to the left of my iris. So making sure that that is happening. And it's going to take a while. It'll take a lot of sort of tweaking and refining to get this shape correct. At least for me, I always find that that's true. It takes me a while to get that right. Looking at that angle again, asking myself how far down is the nose from where that end is. So if that's where the end is, so I'm noticing that maybe my nose went down too low. That's why it's always good to keep measuring. And if you can't see, like if some of the lines that you marked out are now covering and you need more information, like you can't see them, feel free to erase them. Okay, now I'm going to put in that shadow line that I had there before. So it kind of comes down and around and then comes up and follows the shape of the nostril. So if I know that the top of the nostril is there, so I'm just trying to get the outline shape. And then I'll put in the nostril shape. Now, don't just do the nostril as a big deep hole, really looking so like I see a little bit of extreme darkness here, but then it just kind of fades out. So I'm just going to kind of mark that in gently. And I'm really just going to keep playing around with it until I feel it looks like me. If you're having a lot of trouble, again, turn it upside down, break it down into smaller shapes, verticals, horizontal lines to help you. But just don't give up. And also don't idealize yourself, so don't make your nose smaller than you think it is. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it something like that for right now, even though this might change a little when I go in and shade. So now I'm going to move down to my lips. I'm going to start with this Cupid bow shape here, so noticing where that shadow is. Zoom in a little bit here. At least also erase these lines. Side angle, down, and out. And I have the upper lip. So even though I don't normally recommend drawing the outside of the upper lip, but I do want you to at least feel like your lips are in the right place. So just super lightly, I'm going to mark in this shape, just so I feel confident that I'm doing the right thing. So noticing that the lip kind of comes up, and I'm noticing that there's a little too much space here, so I'm going to refine this that I see. Don't just draw the crease of the mouth as one line. Break it down into lots of other smaller lines, kind of like we did with the eyes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Out. Double checking for myself where this falls, so I know it has to be there. Okay. And this side, and it comes down and up, and then this almost just goes something sort of like that. Then getting that bottom lip. So you could also measure your top lip. If you have a bottom lip that's bigger than your top lip, you could also measure your top lip and then say like, okay, about how many top lips make my bottom lip. So if I measure, you can see that at the widest point, it's maybe about like 2. So it's bigger than I had originally marked out. So I'm going to lower that. At least at its widest point it is. And then I'm going to gently looking for what this angle is. See how we're looking? Not too bad. This will of course change a little bit when we start shading, as everything does. Double check for myself that this is in the right spot, and it is, so that's good. And then I'm going to erase the lines there around my mouth that I don't need anymore. And I'm going to move on to my chin. So there's not too much information you need to mark out for the chin. You might just mark out this part here like the crease right underneath the bottom lip. And I noticed that on my face, in my picture, I have these like almost curved shapes coming out of the corner of my mouth. So I'm actually going to lightly draw those in because that's going to indicate to me later that I need to shade there. My cat wants to make an appearance on the screen. Excuse me. And as I'm coming down, I'm also going to double check the boundaries of my face. So looking how far this is away from here. And as I'm doing the chin, I'm going to have to change this angle a little bit, I'm noticing, right? So you're always redrawing, essentially. And it's not so much, if you find yourself having to redraw a lot, it's not so much like you did it wrong the first time. It's just that with portraits, any tiny little mark could make you look like someone totally different. So it just makes sense that there's going to be a lot of give and take and a lot of movement. Okay, so you can see that that already feels a little bit better. I'm going to erase this. All right, so now, for the most part, I've kind of got everything in to be where I want to be. So since I was looking at the shape of the face here, I'm going to go back in and refine the shape of the face in other places. So coming back to my eye, checking that out. This I can tell needs to change. This is the widest point, kind of comes up. And if you have ears in yours, be sure to include the ears in all of this that you're doing. But I'll get into the hair later. This still looks too tall to me. Now, if you want at this point too, you can go ahead and look at your neck. It depends if your neck is showing. So since mine is, I at least just want to mark out some of the basics, right? So just like the boundaries of my neck. I'm going to notice this as a shape that I can draw in. I'm going to notice this, which is very pronounced on me. And last one over here. So I'm just looking for shadow shapes. And then I might include my shoulder. So looking at how far down. So the goal for today is we're not going to touch the hair yet, but it's just to get all your structural lines out of the way and to get your features in, mostly so that it looks like you. I could spend a lot more time refining this to make sure that it looks exactly like me, and I might take the time to do that. I just don't want all of you to fall asleep. But as long as you can get your structural lines out of the way and get all of your features marked in to look somewhat realistic, then you are good to go for the day.